Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and background photograph phantom,
Alex D'Antino.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'll be questioning a lot of things. Nick Cage! No, I'm just kidding. That's not a ghost. That's a decoration of Nicolas Cage. All right, guys.
Nicolas.
Before today's just stellar, stupendous, outlandishly enjoyable episode, a little bit people, it is official. Your friends here at the Film Alchemist are on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. It's the absolute best way to help the show, guys. It's also the absolute best way to make sure that this show is exactly what you want and exactly what you deserve for as little as $1 a month. And guys, believe me when I say every single dollar is greatly appreciated. You can get in, support the show, meet the community we're building, see what we're working on. As you climb the official Highlander tier ranking system, you can actually select the movies that you want to hear in a Patreon exclusive library. So a lot of good benefits, guys. We're working on some cool new ideas, maybe some new little mini series and some other fun stuff, right? So that we can make sure that everyone who supports us is getting their money's worth. It means the world to us. To those of you who support us, thank you. For those of you who are about to, thank you as well. The email is filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Make sure you go to YouTube to see these beautiful faces that are so worth killing for. That's Film Alchemist on YouTube. Smash subscribe. I mean, just lovely. Just lovely, right? If you were going to design a honey dicker like Tom Hiddleston in the lab,
what is happening?
Probably mine and Alex's frames. No, some part of us could make it on the honey dick monster. Neither here nor there.
Have to stop.
Make sure you go to social media. We're on all the socials you're on. Find us there. Make sure, guys, something free, easy, and quick you can do that does help the show, believe it or not. Leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you find the show, including now Spotify. Help us defeat the algorithmic ghost of the past. Help us ascend. Help us get a roof on our fucking mansion, guys. Come on.
Seriously.
Come on. Oh! Right. Let's bury all that business in the shallow grave, right? The shallow red grave. Tonight, we continue our journey.
Our sojourn.
Yeah, our sojourn, right? For the fancy pansies. Tonight's a fancy pansy movie. This month, the pod digs Del Toro. All Del Toro movies this entire month. We hope you guys enjoyed Kronos. Now we're moving on to Crimson Peak. This movie was a fun one to go back and revisit, right? I remember being very hyped for this one. This was a kind of cool run where a lot of these movies were coming out Del Toro produced, right? Mama, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, I think. He had some really cool ones that had kind of some of his touchstones, but were not fully his. I remembered Crimson Peak not super fondly, right? It was not exactly the movie I think I was hoping for when I went in. It's probably the movie of all the Del Toro movies that I've seen this month that feels the least like a Del Toro movie. Again, was how I remembered it. Going back to it again, I really fell for this movie this time. The things that didn't work for me the first time based on maybe some marketing expectations, this, that, and the other. And again, having just seen Nightmare Alley in the theaters not too long ago, I think it's a really fun exercise to watch with this film. I was really loving what this movie was offering. It's just this wonderfully beautiful, kind of Victorian era ghost story. Just some truly haunting moments in imagery, right? And there's some of that Del Toro stuff that felt a little missing from some of his other stuff, but it was also fun to see him branch out and tell a little bit different of a tale. Alex, opening thoughts on Crimson Peak.
I remember you and I being really psyched about this. Like, I remember...
Oh, man. Every time he's got a movie coming out.
Whenever he's got a movie coming out, I'm pretty pumped, but, like, I remember this one being like, oh shit, like when is the last fucking time we saw someone take a swing at gothic horror? Like this too. Like I remember that first trailer just
especially
being
when it's not
fucking
some
banger.
version of Turn the Screw. I was like, thank God.
Yeah, no one's doing James Joyce, which is really cool. This was like
Henry
I remember the
James.
first trailer. I was just like, and the poster felt like straight up Hammer horror. Like I'm like, this is gonna be just all of my favorite.
Hammer
stuff
horror is
about.
a good visual analogy to what
That was always the mindset I went in with. It was going to be a Hammer horror movie, like some sort of, not necessarily like some nod to Hammer horror, as much as Guillermo del Toro does nods to certain things. It met that expectation for me. I remember liking it a lot more than you did. Watching it this time, I had the same vibe. I still like this movie a lot. I like that it's. I think what you're picking up on, and I think what we both note as being like less Del Toro, quote unquote, is that there's a level of fantasticness that almost is missing. It's replaced by this very gothic thing that has to occur. And I think that's what always throws me in this movie is that because it doesn't feel like in the streets, so to speak. There's something very presentational.
Yeah. I think what didn't work for me is there is a coldness at the center of this film.
Oh, totally.
Again, sorry for the pun. That's not the intention, right? But what it is, right? When you compare,
are you saying it's missing its soul?
No, it's just in the bathtub rebleeding on itself. But so I think this one feels very similar to Devil's Backbone in a lot of ways to me, right? Not just the floating ghost wood, which is one of my favorite touches he does.
Awesome.
That movie, though, has this really kind of wonderful child's journey, right? Kronos has this wonderful relationship at the core, right? Pan's Labyrinth, Shape of Water. I think the relationship between father and daughter in this one didn't congeal or manifest outwardly enough for me, right? So this again has this kind of two-parter movie vibe, right? And so there is this protective father who's, nurturing to his daughter's dreams. He's very protective of her as this man descends upon her, this, that, and the other. As the movie goes on, though, her father's brutally murdered, right? And the ghost of his death doesn't seem to follow through the rest of the movie. It feels very disconnected, as if it doesn't matter that much to her, so it doesn't matter that much to me. And I think that real emotional grounding is something that Del Toro never misses on. Now, what I would say this time is if when you make it deeper in the film, you see that actually comes from Tom Hiddleston's character, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And so by
too.
the end of the film, there's real grounding to that kind of thing that I'm always looking for with his movies. It just takes a long time to get there in this movie. Also, I'm going to say this up front because I like to get my bad stuff kind of out of the way. Charlie Hunnam? Hunnam?
Hunnam. But we all say Hunnam.
I think he's a terrible actor. Right? Like, I watch Sons of Anarchy like everyone else, and he's good in that show. Like, he fits in with this kind of awesome mosaic cast. When you're watching this movie specifically, his weaknesses are glaring.
I think what's interesting, it's funny you bring up
glaring.
I think it's funny you bring up Charlie Hunnam because, like, to me, I think he's been good in other things, and I think that's what's so mystifying about it is like I've seen him good in other stuff like Sons of Anarchy. Sure. The movie wasn't necessarily my favorite, but he was very good in The Gentleman. Like, there are movies that he understands.
Let's go back to like an old sports ball reference, right? He can be on your offensive line and make the Pro Bowl, right? His name's not selling the tickets.
Yeah, he's your utility guy. Like this. So
I mean,
to me,
these actors are fucking bringing it.
Yeah, like that's the other thing too. Is like this is a cast. Is like Mia Wasikowska, or however you say her last name, Wasikowska, Tom Hiddleston, and Jessica Chastain. Like, and not only that, Jessica Chastain is doing this fucking incredible performance, and it's like this. I don't know if you picked this up. The caretaker from Rebecca. Like, it's like she yanked that vibe from the Hitchcock Rebecca and just took that. I can't remember what that lady's name is right now, and I feel like a fucking asshole for not remembering. I'm gonna have to look it up before we finish.
Welcome to my brain all the time. No, I mean, I think so. There is a moment when occasionally we cut away from our tale and have to watch Charlie Hunnam. There's a scene that's so fucking funny.
Mrs. Danvers. Mrs. Danvers, that's what it is.
It's so funny because there's a scene when, like, Charlie Hunnam's just like, you know what? Sherlock Holmes was also an optometrist. I'm going to look into this. I was like, wait, what? And there's a scene when he goes into the fucking jerk-off chamber.
It's a masturbatorium.
Yeah, the masturbatorium. We'll discuss that in a minute. Where Pappy got his face just fucking pounded into this porcelain, right? The sink shatters, blood falls out, whatever. Charlie Hunnam's version of detecting is to go back in and he just runs his finger across the top of a sink. I was like, that's not even the same fucking sink. There's no forensics. They cleaned it all. And I was just like, every time we had to watch him on screen, it was a struggle. All right, so enough of that. Not to bury Charlie Hunnam, right? I don't need his ghost.
Again, he's a fine actor. It's interesting though because this movie was the one that came after Pacific Rim for Guillermo del Toro's filmography.
He works better in a Pacific Rim.
He is, but I also do not think he is a strong actor in Pacific Rim either.
No, and this is the thing though, right? This movie specifically is one of those movies that actors want to get in, right?
Yeah,
like Del Toro, and they get to do some work in this movie.
Yeah.
In Charlie Hunnam's defense, Hunnam,
just say Hunnam,
Charlie
or Hunnam, whatever you want to say.
Charlie Hunnam. His character is written to be the most boring, lame guy in the movie.
Yeah,
right?
He's the worst cock block of all time.
Sure.
Like he's just like he's trying real hard, but it's not going to happen.
He's trying. He's opining. He's never going to have the magic. Very much like the leading lady, we are uninterested in him and want to run into Tom Hiddleston's presence. Fine. All right. Enough of that. I do think this opening worked for me, though, right? Because, again, this is something comparable to Nightmare Alley, which I hope we'll be covering for this month. But Nightmare Alley is a two-movie connection, right? They do the opening half and then the second half. Two disparate kind of tales that bond together, right? I do wonder if the start of this movie was a little bit long at times. Because again, I found it to be much more enjoyable this time. That was kind of one of the exercises I was doing this time, right? I think it's a problem, especially in a lot of horror movies, is we go in with a very, very specific preconceived notion of what we expect they're going to be, right? We want the fucking scares. And we want it to be scary and horrifying, and that means something different to everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a movie like this, that's not exactly what they were playing at, right?
No,
so the opening bothered me more before. It really didn't this time. It was kind of charming. I do think maybe you could have scaled it back a little, right?
Yeah, I think this is the charm. This is the real magic of Guillermo del Toro movies. Is like my wife, as I'm sure everybody on this podcast knows at this point. My wife does not watch horror movies when I start watching. Like the month of October, I almost never see her because we're in the middle of watching these movies. This movie though, like she gets amped for Guillermo del Toro movies. Like she was psyched to go to the theater for this. She loved, but this is the trick, and this is why he's so good at this, is because whatever he's deciding to do with the horror genre, and it trickles into every single movie he's done. It never crosses this threshold of like unbearable to watch for like quote unquote the normies like my wife, you know? Yeah. Like Crimson Peak does that really well because again it leans so hard into this hammer horror and this it starts off in a really creepy place. Like, I think that's the creep factor's way up at the very beginning.
Yeah.
It's like,
And you know what's funny? This one has some hardcore bits in it.
There's some hardcore
but again,
horror,
I think,
like violence in this.
I think your point, though, right, is that we as an audience have learned to trust that the horror in a Del Toro movie is used to accentuate real human emotional touchstones, right?
The most important thing about Guillermo del Toro
is he's not getting us
is
in there to make us gag, right? Like,
people,
he's really taking us somewhere.
It's what we've always said. People are the real horror in the world, and Guillermo del Toro knows that, so he,
But okay, so this one starts right with this, this lily white albino like woman in this fucking white storm with some blood on her hands, right? Classic image. Right. I know that ghosts are real. This much I know, right? And then, mom's dead, whatever, right? Until the night she came back.
How fucking good is that beat, though? Holy shit.
That scene.
I forgot about that. Scared the fucking shit out of me. I was watching it at 1 o'clock in the morning in my house, and I was like, I might have to go to bed. That scared me really bad.
And see, again, this is one of those things I didn't appreciate on the first viewing. Is that what I love about this scene in Microcosm is what this movie specifically is really good at that I didn't credit it for. You watch that scene and it is fucking scary, man.
Oh,
We've all done that. And someone told me this too. They're like, how could you watch those fucking scary movies? You're not scared? I'm like, oh, bitch, I'm terrified. Like, when I'm downstairs and I turn the lights off, I run up the stairs because who knows what's behind me in the dark.
Oh, totally.
Right?
Me too.
I close all my doors because I don't like deep shadows. Like, I'm fucking scared as shit when I go to bed. But I like that. It's the same reason, like, why do you get your curry with, like, the extra hot number so you can impress me, even though your butthole's going to fall out later, right? Oh, you like the pain? I like the pain, too. It's fine. But this is a really fucking scary scene, right? This ghost of a mom coming down the hall for her child, right? Beware the Crimson Peak. What you don't realize, right, is that the movie starts at the end, right? Which is another thing I don't love that he pulls off again in this movie. That ghost, right? That's a mother who's recently died trying to crawl into bed and protect and snuggle and be intimate with the daughter she loved and lost and warn her.
Again, it's this disarming.
That's fucking brilliance.
I mean, yeah,
love that beat.
It's the inverse of the beat. Like, it's what every other director would do, and then Guillermo del Toro.
Right.
Like, that is what makes
looks
this movie
monstrous
awesome.
is actually this really heartfelt moment. And what's funny is because when Tom Hiddleston gets closer, right, when he hides in the rain for Dad to leave and then says, "Hey, you want to come fucking candle dance with me?" Red flag. Throw it. Throw the challenge. Red flag. That scene has the mom returning, right? When she's like, "Oh, I don't want to go out to a party. I just want to sit with my books." And I was like, relatable as fuck. Especially nowadays, right? In the COVID era, this decision slaps. The ghost reappears, right? And this one has a more crass kind of jump scare bullshit thing we were doing at that time, where she comes through the door, and it's this horrible sound, and I think that's the weird thing. There are just a couple weird moments in this movie kind of pull you out, because I was like, that's so below Del Toro. And I know this is something that this has become like a film Twitter thing that people want to say, like, actually hot take or jump scares are good. And I was like, hey man, nothing is ever an absolute, right? Or there's some jump scares that are fantastic, right? Exorcist 3, sure. If you had to say the vast majority of them are good, right?
I would say no.
Let's say I had you eat 100 turds, right? One of them might be full of a bunch of peanut M&Ms, and you're like, that one's not as bad. Come on. Anywho,
I mean, I'd go for, like, how many times have you and I seen an Insidious movie and literally it's just jump scare after jump scare? Like,
oh, I mean, I watched Annabelle Creation with Amy the other day, right? Because when my brother comes over, he wants to watch scary movies that are big budget productions, right? Like, he has a very specific thing. He's not trying for indie stuff. He doesn't want any, like, deep messaging. Right. He wants the bigger budget. We know that, we're bringing the things, right? So the Conjuring universe to go. When you watch a Conjuring movie, it almost can't work anymore. Because it's empty space. It's a little too quiet because they're about to try to explode my eardrums with sound.
Right.
And for Del Toro to put that one in, I was like, that's repulsive. Like, you're better than that. Then it dawned on me, right? The mother's really frantic in this moment because the monster is in the fucking home now.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those, you're like, even the things that bothered me the first viewing, I saw some behind. Because I'm like, how can you do that first scene so brilliantly? And then that scene is so abrasive. Oh, because she's an alarm clock now, right? Like, now she's sounding the alarm, right? The guard dog barking at, at the moon, right? Instead of just like a, hey, 20 years down the road. Or I don't know. People age really weird back then. She might be 14 years old in this movie for all I know. But yeah, so again, I think it's just all congealing a lot nicer this time around, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I'm sorry. I don't disagree. Like, I like the
engine
movie.
That makes this show work is bickering, Alex. God damn it.
I know. And this is, well, like, this is the difference between you and I. When we watch these kinds of movies, because, like, I hate jump scares. Like, movies for me are scary enough. Like, getting me to jump 10 feet in the air because, like, or, like, shit my pants out of fear, I don't, like, that is not something in the cards for me necessarily. But, like, this, and it's weird. Maybe it's because it wasn't constant. And maybe that's what it is. Because it's not something it's subverting expectations again because I'm not expecting it from Del Toro. It made it actually scary. And like, not only that, it was like a great payoff scare. Like, I think like the first time I think about like when the fucking red ghost rams into the door. And again, man, it's fucking Doug Jones. Like, he is like the greatest, like one of the all time great chameleon actors, but like rams into the door. And then like, you see that like when it's like, just, I can't even, like, if you have the video feed doesn't do it justice, where it's just traipsing, trying to like pull itself out of the floor. That scared the fucking shit out of me in the theater. And I'm like, that is terrifying. And it's not just like, I mean, it's great creature design, but the sense of foreboding that it causes, because we already know, okay, we're going to this big fucking mansion that's literally sinking into the earth. You're like, obviously, like, move. What's wrong with you guys? Move.
Yeah.
Let's go.
There is the one great scene at the start that we didn't really talk about, right? As we brush by the, like, setting up the obligatory, right? Oh, he's got a secret past, right? Oh, methinks these two probably fucks each other, these brothers and sisters, right? I know I'm not an optometrist, so solving mysteries is not my hobby. That one was pretty fucking obvious to see right away. Right. But when Pappy gets fucking annihilated in the masturbatorium, that was hard.
That was gross, dude.
Yeah, so that was a graphic fucking murder with this sink, right? Just beat. Again, I was a little confused. I'm like, so does he wake up and go somewhere to shower and stand around all half naked asking for papers and bagels? Is this in his own home?
I guess I assumed, and stay with me here. Apparently, rich whites they get to go anywhere and get nude.
Yeah.
So,
is this like, if you pay more than $30 a month at LA Fitness, can I get the masturbatorium pass?
This is like if you pay. Well, this isn't even LA Fitness. This is like a golf club. This is
like a real LA Fitness, right? Not
this is like a real. This is like a real. Like, this is like the original L.A Fitness. You know, like, it's very, very fancy.
A little eyes wide shut, hamstrings to the sky kind of thing.
Yeah. For all you non-rich whites that don't live in Brentwood, this is pretty much where this is their bread and butter.
If you're listening to us, you don't have a masturbatorium pass either. We're of the peeps. But that leads to the scene I really like, right? Like, there is, because I kind of shit on the fact that relationship didn't congeal for me enough. The scene when she has to identify his body is tragic, right?
It's fucking
and not
awful,
only,
man.
but the line that he has in there, I love, right? When Charlie Hunnam's like, "I'm an eye doctor. I better get in here and look at these wounds." And it's like, dude, get the fuck out of here. What a weird way to think you're gonna fucking coerce his daughter into the marriage bed. Like, what are you doing? And she just is like, stop. Like, he's a fucking person still. And she holds his fucking hand, right? And she just goes, "Why is his hand so cold?" And that line gutted me, right? So I do take back the relationship didn't matter. I feel like it didn't carry on as much. That moment was great.
But see, I got what you were saying with that.
Right.
It doesn't matter. What it is like it's a footnote to the characters. It's a footnote in the exposition to give the character to give Mia Wasikowska's character the depth, Edith, the depth to move forward. So she's like been faced not only with tragedy, like we've already seen, like the haunting of her mother. Mm-hmm. She's faced with the tragedy of now her father. Like her father's gone too. Like there's a very specific toll it's supposed to take on her. So it makes her more susceptible in a way, almost, to this very handsome, pale, gallivanting fellow who just shows up and sweeps her off her feet.
Yeah, just the old candle dancer. Huh? He's
the old
here.
1-2.
Yeah. Oh God. So they end up. We cut now to the second half of the movie, and this is where this movie is fucking pure magic to me, right?
I gotta say, I remember this. My big complaint in the theater.
It's not
was
Arendelle, right? That's fucking Frozen. Wherever this house is,
it's Allerdale Hall. That was always my biggest concern when I was in the theater. Like when we left, I told Andrea, I was like, that was oddly clunky exposition to get us to the house.
Yeah,
like I remember thinking that leaving the theater. I'm like, for being something that I needed to know to get to the house. A lot of that is stuff you can just like cut out.
Yeah.
But it's in there.
It's weird because he's laying breadcrumbs, right? I like the thing about like
totally.
You have the softest hands of any man I know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this movie does brilliant with, you know, like the props and the colors, right? The ring and I mean, they're laying out the pieces. It's just, especially now that you've seen Nightmare Alley, where the opening and the second are so distinct from each other. But they're used to such insane effect, right? That the opening of the film, I remember sitting in the theater being like, wow, this is kind of, like, this is going for it, man. Like, this is long. I'll tell that story when we cover the pod about the fucking teenagers that, you know, got wild in there. But then by the end, you're like, holy shit, the payoffs are just powerful. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I felt that way about this one. But once you get to the house, wonderful, right? So you've got this snow-covered vista, right, where he's got his little shovel machine and it's bleeding red through the snow, right? This cool imagery. I was startled at the start of the movie. I remember seeing this in theater and just looking around. I was like, are we not going to address that leaves are just falling in the foyer? Like, are we just not? Wait. It took me a minute to like get settled in to the atmosphere of the house with no roof on it, right? Because she left her fucking mansion to go to this mansion, right? It is a wonderful set piece, but
it was like this again. I thought the same thing. I'm just like, we're not going to address that this house is falling down, or is that like part of the charm, or what's the deal here?
It was strange because you're like, dude, I don't know. I know you guys have this plan, kind of, but like, she got some mansion.
Yeah, just go live with her.
She got the keys to the masturbatorium.
Bring your creepy Mrs. Danvers sister, and she'll be fine. She'll be very happy.
Yeah, she can stay in the fucking cheek beating quarters, right, and play her piano, while everyone else is just happy having a roof. But that's
so
neither here nor there. So when we get to this phase, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the ghosts real quick.
Okay.
I love the ghost in this film, right?
Me too. It's
the idea
awesome
that
design.
they are, because I like the kind of more, you know, incorporeal ghost, right? Like little faint images. The idea that they are essentially Hollow Man Kevin Bacon, but for the blood from the wounds that caused them to die, is fucking cool, man. I was like, I don't know that I'd seen that exact ghost design. I hadn't. Awesome, man.
It was great.
In that bathtub, right, with the fucking meat cleaver in the head, that one really was freaky to me. That
stuff, like everything about these creature designs in the house, in particular, like the murdered skeletons in the house. I don't know about you, but everything about it was just. This was the part where I was like, this is straight up, like gothic horror stuff. Like you would have seen this. Like a much less gruesome effect in like a Vincent Price movie or one of the Hammer horrors. Like it's a really specific look. And I think that was the part, that was where I was just starting to get pulled right into the movie. Like,
oh man,
warts and all, I was just fucking obsessed.
yeah,
Because I was like, if we get more of that, this is going to be awesome.
yeah, and it's twofold, right? Because he tells us right up front, right, that ghosts are metaphors for the past, right? She talks about writing her novella,
Right.
so we kind of know what he's doing, and it's this wonderful thing where they are creepy and scary, but Jessica Chastain is so much creepier than everything else in the movie,
Dude.
It's this wonderful journey, and it has this. The way they're unfurling the mystery upon us, right? Not that any of it is hard to see coming, but I don't always think a mystery has to be, oh, it's so clever I couldn't find it out.
No.
When I get the clue, I want to have that, oh, like that moment, right? Like, that's awesome.
I think this is what makes Crimson Peak special, is that there's nothing about what's happening. There's nothing about the proceedings of the mystery, quote unquote, that aren't, nothing is shocking me. Like, I don't sit there and go, did not see that coming.
Yeah.
Like, every single thing that happens is a telegraph pass, and I don't have a problem with it.
The only person who was less shocked when she saw the siblings fucking than me was Jessica Chastain's character.
Yeah.
That's the only person who was less upset by that moment than me, because I knew it was coming, right? But like, even stuff like Enola, The Ring, they just have these really great little payoffs, and that's all you want from a mystery.
And it's all you should expect, but more importantly, like, all of the things that this movie is paying tribute to. If you've seen these movies, if you've seen this iconography, hey, you know exactly where it's going, and that's what I think was what makes Crimson Peak. And maybe this goes to the point of what's sort of hollow at the center of it, is that maybe because I know the reference, I know, like, I can feel the reference coming through the celluloid, like, I know what's happening. Maybe that's what it is that's kind of kicking the tires against the grain for me, because, like, for me, I probably would have been more invested had I not understood all the referencing. Because, like, Jessica Chastain is clear. Jessica Chastain and, like, Enola, the Enola beats are very much reminiscent of Hitchcock's Rebecca. Not even the movie, not even the book, but, like, the very specifically Hitchcock's Rebecca. Like, she even has, like, jet black hair like Mrs. Danvers in the movie. And then the rest of it is so referential, but still really good. It's still Guillermo del Toro, but maybe that's what it is like, I feel like Guillermo del Toro is telling us how much he loves these things and not how much he loves the story itself. Maybe that's what it is.
See, the references, I bought into this as its own world, right? It's this beautiful little enclosed open top mansion.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So I bought into all of that. And I think that's just one of the things, right? When you make a true ghost story, ghosts are to his point, right, are all about looking backwards, right? And to be haunted by a ghost or to be scared of a ghost normally requires an emptiness, right? Mm-hmm. In a weird way, the people that are being haunted and scared by ghosts are also seeking that ghost out. It's that's kind of the game, right? That something's missing with them, and so they can find some greater meaning through these ghosts, right? And I think just the amount that when her and Tom Hiddleston are together, it gives me no sparks. I know he's a murderer or a diddler or worse. So, like, that does nothing for me, right? That plays ominous. I'm like, this fucking honey dick here, you know, this guy's doing something I don't like, right?
This guy's not up to this guy's up to no good.
This guy up to no good, man. I'm not a fan of this honey dick, right? So, like, there's nothing there, right?
Shut up, baby dick.
Yeah, him and Chastain definitely not into whatever's happening there, right? Because once they're like, we're brothers and sisters, I was like, woo, boy.
There we go.
I thought this was the one mystery that I was like, that would have been cool. I thought the Enola trunk was going to be her trunk because she had the key, and they were going to open it up, and it was just going to be like nipple clamps and Tom Hiddleston's gimp suit. You know what I mean? Like,
you were expecting like the
people under the stairs,
Hellraiser puzzle box.
She just all of a sudden puts it on, ties her ball gag in nice and tight, just gets her whooping butcher knife or whatever. Like, it's go time. Like, whatever, you know, that's what Neither here nor there, right? It was a great payoff when it happened, right? Ghost Pringle cans that tell us, audio stuff. Great. That's all good. And I think that's the thing, though, right? Is these are just rich people sitting in a fucking cold house. And I think as an audience member, I never know which way is up, right? Like, who am I rooting for? I know I'm assuming at the end Enola's not going to get fucking got. So it just has this.
You mean Edith?
What did I say? Enola's the fucking.
Enola's
the gimp suit. Yeah.
Enola's the gimp suit.
Enola's the safe word. I got it. Yeah, but you know what I mean? So I'm watching it, and again, I don't think movies have to have this kind of treadmill thing where they're just pushing me forward.
Sure.
But even in a movie where, some movies just kind of meander and want us to ponder and take in imagery, great. I didn't even know what to ponder, right? Like I knew the ghosts were going to be manifestations of like past crimes in this most obvious haunted of houses, right?
Right.
I knew these two were pieces of shit. I knew she was getting poisoned. And I assumed that the fucking world's lamest detective, right? Cardboard Holmes was on his way.
Speaking of Cardboard Holmes, it was the one part of the movie that was very relatable was when he walked into the middle of Allerdale Hall and goes, "What the fuck's going on in here?" Like he literally looks up and we're like, "Thank you. Someone is acknowledging the fact that there's snow falling."
You want to know the moment that killed me? Is when fucking Chastain has her up.
Oh my
in the
god,
room,
I know exactly what you're gonna say.
She's gonna make her fucking sign the thing, and right in front of her, she reads the first page of her book and just goes, "Psh, you thought you were a writer," and I just go, "Oh my god, ouch!" Ooh. I was like, "That's the most vicious murder she has committed."
Yeah. Who needs a knife or fire? Yeah. What was it, firethorn berry? Who needs any poisonberry tea when you got that fucking sick burn? Jeez.
Yeah, just butcher knife me right in the face in a hot bath instead of glancing over my work and just shitting upon it. That was so brutal.
I knew you were going to bring it up. I'm so happy you brought that scene up.
But I think that's the thing, right? Is I didn't. My heart and mind didn't know what to do other than sit back and just be like, "Wow, look at this movie."
It is a visual feast, yeah.
And I think that's the difference when you compare to Chronos, Shape of Water, Pan's Labyrinth, his best movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Operate on both. This one kind of sinks down. Now, the thing they try to slide in, right? Again, no pun intended, right? The old salami they're trying to slide in is when they get snowed in at the old fucking depot. And so beneath all this hay,
there will be blood plant.
Yeah, they get to spend a night away from the house, man. And we just start pounding, right?
Yeah,
like we're good now. We're pounding, right? It's a warm atmosphere. They have a roof, right? Even a basement with a roof is better. They got the heat of a fire. They got the heat of just those fucking never seen the sun, pasty white cheeks.
Just feasty loins. Oh, yeah.
And there's this moment of actual human warmth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they talk, a little bit about her writing her stories, and it's lovely, right? Like that's kind of a nice moment. And then we cut to, and this is like one of the little exchanges I fucking loved, right? Is they're sitting there getting out of the cart. When Hiddleston gets her out, right? We're not looking down on the fucking blood-colored snow. It's like an upward shot, right? They look big and happy. Hiddleston's smiling, right? She runs in the house. And Jessica Chastain is on one.
Yeah.
Right? She can fucking smell the sex smells because this is the old time, right? I'm guessing the fucking Barn Depot didn't have a nice shower system.
Yeah. Something tells me it's quite pungent.
Yeah. On that fucking cold air, too, it probably traveled, right? As soon as the fucking rickety gate opened, she... eggs and, oh, God, the love of my life, right? She's wicked.
Just a bloodhound.
Those weren't the only eggs getting scrambled last night. Jesus H. I gotta handle this, right? And she smashes the fucking thing, right? Yeah. So again, we know the fucking jig is up. We know what's going on, but it's wonderful. And so that's a nice little emotional moment. I will say, I liked Hiddleston going back in the room to try to let her out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the groundwork was laid that he actually fell madly in love for this
Not
woman.
quite.
I know they did the, you know,
that
they got laid at the depot. I feel like that is the maybe
this
the
is the part that's very
like
this is the part that's very like for me like Pride and Prejudice-y, and you're just like, all right, cool, I guess they're in love now. Like I'm just got it. All right, Mr. Darcy over there is just gonna walk through the hills and take what he pleases. But like that, I agree. Like there, but again, you're so entranced by the movie at that point. You're just sort of again. You're just accepting of the reality. Like, yeah, if you and I had taken 5 seconds to go, hang on a second, this doesn't happen, but is the meat really that sweet to just be like, both you guys just like, let's be together? It can't be.
I mean, when we've only
known one flesh, I guess.
I guess it's fiery hot flesh.
But either way,
This is what I mean, though. I would have liked to have seen some moments, right? Because they do this thing where, like, he's like, "Oh, my fucking, Tinker, my Tonka
well, he's
truck
super
toy
cold
is
and just wants his shit.
Yeah, and he
just
goes,
wants his shit to work.
I can't wait for her to see it." And she goes, "Her? No, we did this, me and you." So, like, they try to hint at, when he does the little guy that eats the ball and it comes out the toy, right?
Yeah,
I feel like they tried. It's just that Tom Hiddleston playing like a walking ghost boy.
Yeah.
And knowing right away that this is only nefarious in nature, I would have loved to have seen somewhere in there them to have more of those actual warm moments, right? That they're the campfire keeping the dark at bay.
Yeah.
And it never
that makes
quite
sense.
felt that way. I mean, I'm not saying it's a flaw of the film per se, but I think that kind of stuff could have helped. Because at the end, when he goes back in the room, right? And he's mad. He's like, "You won't have her, right? I love her." There's this wonderful moment with Jessica Chastain, right? When he burns the contract. You burned it, right? She got stabbed in the tit with the pen that her dad gave her. And there was a weird close-up, too, when she didn't put it back in the case. And he's like, "What?" Like, oh, my God. I got to think about this at the masturbatorium later. And she ends up stabbing that bitch with it, right? It was awesome. When he comes back in, he burns her contract, right? They won't steal her money. She's like, "You burned it." Oh. And he's talking, right? "You won't do this. You won't do that." And he starts spinning this yarn, right? We can just fucking leave this shithole, right? We've been bonded here. We've been stuck here, anchored by the chains of our crimes and sin. We can leave. We can start again. And you see this moment where Jessica Chastain is buying in. She's like, all right, I got my brother. I'm Winnie the Pooh. He's the honey dick. It's worked out well so far. Right? We'll go out. We'll fucking live somewhere with sunlight so both of us won't be the same color as Jason Voorhees at the end of Friday the 13th. We'll make this work, right? We're on our fucking way. And then he goes, "We can all be happy together." And the moment she knows that he actually loves her, right? "You promised you'd never fall in love." And he goes, "But I did." She fucking, because that has one of those gnarly graphic moments. She fucking slides the knife into his cheek.
Right there. Oof.
Whoa. Woof.
That was tough to watch in the theater.
That's hardcore.
I remember being like, I remember
and
being
what
like,
does Tom Hiddleston not do? Fighter.
No.
He doesn't fucking fight, man.
It's this.
So
it's
there is wonderful, again, I feel like I'm contradicting myself. There is wonderfully powerful moments of emotion in this film.
I don't think you're contradicting yourself at all. Like, yeah, the movie itself is a fucking firecracker of an emotional journey. Like, while some things might seem unearned, that scene particularly is the most earned of any emotional payoff.
Because you get
in the
constant
entire movie.
Sex tension from those two the entire movie.
And you realize that, and I think that, and again, this is like Del Toro tricking us, is like, there is this like sex, for obvious reasons, there's this sex tension. What you realize that it actually is this like, kind of like murder-suicide tension almost. Like it's this very uncomfortable thing where it's like it's so parasitic at that point. And that I think is probably the most like, because then, once she stabs him, she's unhinged. Like she goes after Edith, and you get that great. I mean, you get like, I think probably one of the great endings of a ghost story. I fucking love that reveal of him as the ghost. Like it's one. I mean,
again,
it's one of
got
my
the fucking
and the like blood's just sort of like, man, that is so cool,
that.
So cool.
You know why that one is so cool too? Because we're doing our classic chase around like fucking wiggle and knife thing.
Yeah.
And when she sees it, right? Because Jessica Chastain's character keeps saying, right, I will never fucking stop coming for you.
Never stop.
You have to kill me. When she turns around and gets hit with the shovel, right? She's on her knees. When she says it again that time, I'll never stop. You have to kill me. She is begging her.
Yeah, she's saying,
bash her head in with that shovel because she wants to be with him.
With him, yeah.
Right? Because she knows that she can once again have him, and in a really kind of sinister way, knows she can have him to herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that is the extra wonderful meanings that I guess I'm spoiled. I always come to expect from his movies.
Yeah.
And so those payoffs are fucking wonderful, man. And again, the movie is just, by the time you get outside it too, the snow with the red ground and the red ring against black dresses. I mean, the colors of this movie.
It's visually incredible.
Luscious. Yeah.
Lush. It's
fucking luscious.
The visuals, and again, like in a movie like this.
We forgot another horrifying thing we found out. They had a baby together, this brother and sister. Because one of the ghosts that really fucked me up in this movie was the lady holding the ghost baby. When you hear that cry, it's one of those sounds you're like, why is that in the house with no roof? Why is that in the Leaf House? What the fuck's happening? You go out and floating in this open air is this lady's body and a baby, blood baby.
I forgot about that. Ugh.
And it's horrifying. And I think she says later, because this was a great line, I wrote it down, right? She's like, he was born wrong, right? And that's why I think they're saying that they killed their own baby, right?
Right.
And she said, this is kind of the way I think of this movie, though, right? And why maybe it's a little colder intentionally. And she says, this kind of horror is for love. This love burns and maims and hurts. It's a monstrous love, right?
Right.
That makes monsters of us all. And I think that's the difference for me, right? Is that this is not love. This is monstrous love.
Yeah.
When you love something so much that you bring its image back from the grave, or when you love something so much that you actually do come back from the grave, you love something so much you will destroy anything that gets near to what you love and, smother it by not letting it fly. That's a good summation of what this is.
Yeah, I mean, it's the misnomer of mistaking obsession for love.
Yes.
And that I think is like that to me is the crux on which the Crimson Peak is built. Because like there's a lot of that in this movie, and that's what I think makes the gothic horror aspect of it so much more engaging, where you're right, like it is a little standoffish, and it is the sort of weird thing where you're not fully understanding why it is like that. But I really do think what it boils down to is it's a true gothic horror. Like it's a true it's supposed to be gothic romance, although I cannot surmise the romantic aspects of some of this movie.
I mean, it's there. It's a monstrous romance, though, right?
It is this. It's like this obsessive cultish romance. It's
more. It's more of an ass paddling romance than like we're gonna go courting in the woods kind of.
That's romance. A good point. Yeah. It's a little more. It's far stricter. It's very buttoned up. Again, a lot of high collars in this movie, so you're gonna see a lot of people who've not had really cool sex in a long time.
Thankfully, it's cold. I will say this: when I get weirded out by people in old movies like this having sex based on hygiene and smell stuff.
Yeah,
it's like at least it's cold, so your 8 layers are helping you.
True. I still think about the fact that toilet paper.
I still
hadn't
can't
been
believe
invented.
that we exist as a species, right?
It's
They're
pretty
like,
impressive.
our ancient relatives are just like, smells be damned, let's get it on. Maybe back then they just weren't treating themselves, right? And they showed they had the masturbatorium, so some people were treating themselves, getting showers on the rig.
Someone was getting lotions and potions.
Yeah, but like imagine our ancient ancestors, like, God, I've been out hunting and gathering for days, and the fucking pheromones and stench. No toilet paper, right? The disease.
No toilet paper, just all kinds of butt mud just cracked up there.
That just smells from the teeth, right? The no floss.
Yeah.
And then just being like, oh my
Get it
God.
on?
Is that Grolk? Did he do something with his dreadlocks and beard? Oh my
goodness.
God. Oh my God.
Oh.
Is he wearing the loin of a freshly slaughtered
Did
mammoth?
you see that one tooth rotted directly out of his face? My goodness.
When that one falls out, keep her, right? Our ancestors they plowed through, literally.
What has this descended
They plowed
into?
the earth and each other to make way for us to give birth to the technologies that gives us Crimson Peak. So, hey, good on you.
What a movie, though, man.
Yeah,
I mean, really.
This is the thing, though, right? Is I think I can look back and understand why I did not love it when I first saw it. And I think the testament to some movies, right, is when you give them a second watch, you know what you didn't like, and you go in and you essentially get to argue against yourself, right? And be like, no, this is working. And I think a really good movie like this can stand a little scrutiny at the start. And then once your expectations are set, you go back in and you find all of these wonderful things you missed before. So I was actually really happy to get to go back and rewatch this movie. Because it is, I think you said it earlier, right? By the end, whatever's happening, you're just so visually captivated by this movie. It's something, man. I really loved it watching it again today.
One quick casting note. Do you know who the original Edith and Thomas Sharp were? They had to drop out of production.
Let's see. Johnny Depp?
Guess. No.
It didn't make sense, but I was like, he's got like ghostly features.
It's
Winona Ryder.
Okay, it's not 1992.
Was she shoplifting? Yeah, I'm just recasting.
It's not.
Edward
It's not
Scissorhands.
1992. You're just recasting. I think it's 2015.
Mid 2000. So, I'm trying to think of who was at Woodstock '99. No. Kid Rock and the lead singer of Evanescence. I don't know.
Close. It would have been Benedict Cumberbatch and Emma Stone.
Was Benedict Cumberbatch a thing by that point? He was probably Sherlocking by then.
He was on the rise. He was Sherlocking for sure.
Okay.
Interesting.
And I think
he was like Sherlocking about a year away from being Doctor Strange.
I like this better, man.
I like this cast a lot better.
I think Tom Hiddleston is integral to what this movie does.
Agreed.
His haunted sexiness is very important in making this work.
I cannot imagine another actress besides Jessica Chastain doing that.
No, that one is unassailable.
She's fucking untouchable.
Rocks this fucking movie, man.
Yeah.
It's just good, man.
It's just good.
I loved it. That's it for Crimson Peak. That's not it for the Pod Digs Del Toro month. We've still got Pan's Labyrinth, and the patrons are voting on what they think our fourth Del Toro movie should be. And hopefully we'll also get to discuss the amazing Nightmare Alley, which I hope you guys have seen by now. Go, run and find that movie. It's awesome.
Truth.
Guys, if you would like to vote and help us pick our final Del Toro flick, join us on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod. The best way to help the show. The best way to get the show you want and deserve. We appreciate everything you guys do for us and all the support that we receive. So thank you guys very much. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. The YouTube, Film Alchemist. Find us on all the socials you're on. Make sure you leave those ratings and reviews wherever you find the show. Easy, fast, free way to help us out. That is greatly appreciated. What a wonderful show this has been. Until next time for the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Dandino.